Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. So today we are going to discuss two different things, companion planting and crop rotation. What are they and are they important? So the first thing to discuss is companion planting. So the premise of companion planting is that you are planting different crops together that basically work as companions or partners or family in order to grow better and support each other and thrive in their environment. So there's many different books about this. I think there's one called Carrots Love Tomatoes. That's one of the most popular ones on it. You can find things like every year in your almanac. You can go online. There's so many resources of different charts showing you what vegetables or what crops work together. It goes all the way back to like indigenous culture back in the day, the Three Sisters, if you've ever heard about the Three Sisters planting. So it's corn, squash, and beans. And basically, it was the belief that when you plant these all together, they support each other and to create a better environment so the beans could climb the corn. The squash leaves would essentially shade the soil so that it stayed moist and provided more nutrients. So, any way you look at it, it's the idea that these plants work together and to help, like I said, to help thrive. And then there's, debate about how if you plant certain plants together, they don't do as well. So, they might not thrive as well or get as big, or you might not get as much harvest. When talking about that, is it important? Um, I would say that it's not absolutely detrimental. Of course, there's going to be benefits to planting certain things next to each other. For example, you could plant taller plants next to your smaller plants that like shade. So if you were growing tomatoes next to, like, say, a lettuce who likes a cooler environment, that would help in that way to say that they would do well together um, based on the way they grow. I didn't know what companion planting was up until just a couple years ago. I planted my garden just any old way and it worked. It's going to work. If you don't have the space, if you don't have the time to organize, if you just are just feeling too overwhelmed about it, don't worry about it because nature will always find a way. You will always get some sort of crop, whether you plant a tomato beside a bean or whether you plant a bean beside an onion. It doesn't really matter. You are still going to get it. Like I said, that seed will find a way to grow. How many seeds or plants do you see on the side of the road that are like, what are you doing there? It will find a way. Don't stress about it. It's not that important. It's of course it's nice and it's cool and it's definitely a way to go about it, but it's not absolutely detrimental to your garden. The second thing to talk about is crop rotation. And in my opinion, this one's a little bit more important, and I'm going to tell you why. So, crop rotation is basically saying that you're not going to grow the same crop in the same space or the same container or soil for more than 1 or 2 years in a row. And the reason that is because if you have a plant that is a really heavy feeder and it's constantly sucking nutrients and all that good stuff out of the soil, the next year you don't want to put something that's going to heavy feed off that soil again because your soil might be depleted of nutrients. You might not get it up to par where it needs to be. And so you really don't want to stress out your soil in terms of like having a plant that's constantly sucking for it. The second reason that you want to rotate your plants is in the event that you had some sort of pest or disease pressure in that spot. A lot of times your diseases and your pests can live in that soil even after the crop is gone. So if you have a squash bug and then you go and plant squash in that same spot next year, the disease or the pest might come alive and be like, hey, thanks for planting that squash again. I'm going to go to town. Whereas if you planted a tomato in its spot, it might be like, oh, well, we're not really thriving off this plant, so we're going to either die off or move on. So it's just the idea that we're not stressing out our soil or that same spot over and over and over again. And in my opinion, like I said, everyone can argue about it all day, but that is more important of the two because you want to make sure that you are getting the optimal health for your plants and from that soil. So I might not rotate every single year, but at least every 2 years, if I can, I will make sure that I'm not planting those heavy feeders in that soil over and over again. And if you are interested in what is a heavy feeder and what is not a heavy feeder, just a simple Google search will help you with that. I don't know a resource offhand. If you know one, definitely link it below, so people can figure out what's a heavy feeder and what's not. But yeah, those are the two things that I see people ask about all the time. Is it important? And they're stressing out about companion planting. And like I said, I have grown many a gardens that were never companion planted. I just threw things wherever. As long as you have the space and you're giving it the requirements that it needs to grow, the right fertilizers, the right amount of spacing, all that watering consistency, you should be okay. But make sure you are trying to rotate out those plants if possible when planting a garden. Otherwise, enjoy yourself, don't stress so much, and have a good time. We will talk to you soon. Bye.